Yeah, boy, it's October 13th, and it's episode 125, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer. I'm your host, Uncle Buckets. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer is the official podcast of thefantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyfootballauctioneer, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Fantasy Auction. You can also join our all-auction Twitter community, connect with auction players from all over the world. That handle is at FF Auction Advice. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're gonna let's see, week 5 is in the books. Another crazy week of fantasy football. Who should you start? Who should you pick up on the waivers? What's the latest NFL news? Well, we've got all those answers for you and much, much more. But of course, they're both here tonight. He might be happy about one team in Boston, but he can't be happy about another. Blister, how about them Bruins?
Oh, yeah, I don't think I'll be bringing them up too many times this year, other than to curse their name because they look crappy. And, now the rumors are they're going to start shopping some of their veteran players, which they should have done last year probably when some teams are pushing to make the playoffs and go for a deep run. They should have been getting rid of guys like Chara, and now they're not going to get hardly anything for them. But, I was talking to another Bruin fan, and it really wouldn't matter what they got for them. They dropped a bunch of guys in the first round that nobody's ever heard of that were projected about 10th rounders. So I think they should fire the whole crew and send them to the minors. And that's my take on that.
Well, I even talked to one of my little guy's buddies, and who's a Bruins fan. And he's like, no, I don't even know if I'm going to cheer for him anymore. I thought, whoa, that's getting pretty.
It's a sad state of affairs.
He used to be 7.
Well, yeah. Well, he's 9. He's a real veteran of the NHL.
Flip-flop, doesn't matter.
Well, and that's it. Well, I'm a Jets fan, he says, so whatever. I said, no, you got to stick with your team through the good and through the bad. So, and then I got a chirp about the Cowboys from his dad, so I'll let her lie. Anyways, and he's got his rally cap on, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, for the Blue Jays tomorrow. Slim, Game 5, baby!
Yeah, man. I wore it tonight just because I cheated a little bit and I saw the beginning of it.
I thought so.
So I figured I'd throw it on, make it really fit. Pretty stoked.
Well, it's been quite a comeback. I thought after the first 2 games that was going to be just about all she wrote, but that's been heavy the last 2 games.
I figured they'd force 5. I'm not super confident about this game, but whatever.
Is it another afternoon weekday game?
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
What's with that? All right. Well, there's 2 intros that have nothing to do about football. So let's get into talk. What's that?
We're sick of football. I'm just kidding. Never.
Kidding. All right. Well, let's get into talking about some football, guys. So if you guys are ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. So we've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight we're going to go through Week 6. The first segment, as always, is We Just Got a Letter. So we just got a letter. We got a bunch of Twitter questions in. If you want to tweet us, we are at Fantasy Auction. You can also tweet your questions, little crowdsourcing at FF Auction Advice. And if 140 characters is not enough for you, not only is Twitter talking about helping that, I heard actually, and upping the 140 characters, but you can also email us. It's footballauctioneer@gmail.com. So the first question, and Blister, let's just send it out to you. The first one, at Eric Schaefer73 asks, or says, he never thought he'd ask this, Bortles or Luck this week?
Ooh, that's a question you don't hear yourself saying, but Bortles has had some pretty good games. Houston's defense isn't exactly overpowering like we kind of expected them to be. Jacksonville's at home. Flip side, Andrew Luck's hosting New England. Now, I heard a good thing on the radio that I kind of had forgotten about. It was against them or whatever that they kind of ratted the Patriots out. So for the Deflategate, the whole incident and all the crap they went through. So you could see Brady and the boys going in there with a real chip on their shoulder and trying to put up 60, 70 points on these guys. So if that happens, Andrew Luck's going to have to throw the ball. I can't see it them not trying to do something like that. Indy doesn't have a great defense. I'm not worried about his health. I'm pretty sure he's all healed up now. But I think he's going to have to throw the ball a ton now. I would imagine that, Bortles had a pretty good game last week. I don't know if he can follow that up with 2 in a row. I think you got to go with Luck, because he's probably going to have to throw the ball a ton just to try to stay in the game or catch up, but I don't think they will.
All right. Next Twitter question comes to you, Slim, at Russelino Bryan asks, he's asking about a trade here, Slim. He needs wide receiver depth. So the trade is Forte for Ivory and John Brown in a PPR. Go.
No, I'm keeping Forte. I mean, to me, he's their best PPR running back right now with Jamal Charles being out. He's going to be a 20-point per game guy going forward probably rest of the year, every game. So, Ivory and John Brown are nice pieces, but they're nice ancillary pieces kind of. They're not guaranteed to start for you every week. It's the part about redraft leagues that I find difficult is guys just wanting to trade so badly, where I think it's so overrated in redraft leagues. I just think, when you have studs, you want to hang on to those guys and work the waiver wire to fill in the holes week to week with your flexes and things like that. To me, you can't put enough value on having studs, so I'm keeping Forte.
All right. Next up for you, Blister, at Dan Hodge 74, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later too. But what is the blind bid amount for Chandrick West this week?
I'm thinking you should go as much as 60% of your free agent budget. As him and Han toying with some numbers myself, and knowing that Uncle Slim bid a lot on a guy last week and took me out of the mix, and here I am, like we said, week 6, and playoffs start in about another 7 weeks or so. So, what are you waiting for? This could be a great opportunity to get a guy, but you're going to be looking. I would say 60% of your budget at least.
Yeah, I think even higher, honestly.
Yeah.
If you're a Jamal Charles owner, I'm pretty much, I think I'm spending
all
close
in.
to 80. Pretty much going all in, yeah. You got to ask yourself, are you streaming quarterbacks and kickers and things like that, right? Because if you are, you got to save a little bit of cash probably for that. But you look, like you said, Blister, it's week 6 right now. You're probably pretty close to halfway done your fantasy season before your playoffs start, and what's time to go all in almost, and you're running out of weeks, so
I can't believe it's week 6 already. Wow.
We were just chomping at the bit. It just felt like, hey, come on, season.
I haven't won $1 million on DraftKings or FanDuel or any site yet. No, I don't know why not. I thought it would be done work by now.
Seems a little unfair.
I don't think it's right. I've tried hard enough. Put in my time. I just don't understand.
All right, Slim, let's ask you the flip side of that same question. This one's from at JGibson314. Is Nile Davis worth starting this week over Lamar Miller or CJ Spiller?
I don't think so, honestly. I have both Miller and Spiller, as low-end RB2s this week in a PPR league. West and Davis are going to split carries, at best. With Davis hasn't looked real good this year anyway, so that's why you're getting all this buzz for West actually. So, I'd rather start those two guys over Nile this week.
All right, I agree there too. And let's go finally the final Twitter question to you, Blister, at Zales2525. I don't know, do you think he sells diamonds?
He does.
He does?
Maybe.
Well, maybe we need to hook up a little. Maybe we need to hook up, a little ad campaign for Zales on here. For the millions and millions. Okay, anyway, so Blister, the question is, what kind of return do you expect for Julio Jones? Some examples he's given are Ivory and B. Marsh for Julio Jones, or B. Marsh and Jordan Matthews and Brady for Julio Jones. And then the second part of the question, would you guys be buyers or sellers? Lister, what do you think? Return value for Julio?
Well, I don't know. I don't really like too many of those options he's got there. Ivory is a guy that typically gets hurt. Stephen Ridley is going to be coming off the pup sooner than later, and you could cut into some of Ivory's work. Brandon Marshall, I do like. He's having a pretty good year, but Fitzpatrick at the helm, he tends to fade down a stretch as well, so I'm worried about that. B. Marsh again and J. Matt. I think Matthews has got to get better. But I think I would just stick with Julio. I mean, when he's playing and he's not banged up, he's a beast. And right now he's banged up, but he's not badly hurt. Like, I think if they even give him a few weeks off to rest and you had him for the playoff stretch, you'd rather have Julio in your lineup than any of these guys. Bradio's been good too. Brady's good and putting up numbers right now. But again, it's a quarterback, and I think you can find those numbers. I mean, Josh McCown was the leading quarterback in fantasy last week. So if Josh McCown's out there and guys like that can put up numbers, you don't need to be giving away Julio for Brady either. So I would just stay put, or if there's somebody out there trying to sell, I mean, kick the tires and see if you can buy Julio. I'm sure he'll get banged up. He might miss a few games. He might miss this Thursday. But if you're still in playoff race in your league, I would hang on to him and hope that you have him down the stretch.
Slim, what do you think? Are you selling Julio?
Not unless I can get Le'Veon Bell or
Matt Forte or
to me, Gronk. Those kind of are the only guys really that I think I'm willing to sell for at the moment. I mean, I can't think of a wide receiver I'd rather have than him right now. So depending on what your league scoring and settings are and startable, who you got to start and everything, I just think you want the studs, man. These guys are the guys that are going to just, they're going to put up 20 points a game for you, or, fantasy points. There's just not many guys out there that are capable of doing that every week, and he's one of them. The hamstring injury, that doesn't worry me tons. I mean, he still looked pretty good last week when he had got the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance, obviously, he doesn't play this week, which might be smart for the Falcons. And then so he's pretty much got 2 weeks off with them playing in the short week this week. So, even if he does play, I think he'll have a lot of rest and he should be ready to go. Like you said, he doesn't look terrible with his hamstring injury, so I don't think it's super serious. It's just something that's obviously nagging him, but I don't know.
He's been on the report all season.
To me, I'm buying him. I'm not selling him at this point.
For sure. Okay, well, that was we just got a letter. You can tweet us questions at Fantasy Auction. We're on the line on Sunday mornings too. If you have lineup questions, so don't be afraid to hit us up there at Fantasy Auction. Let's move into segment number 2, guys. This one's called Fantasy Football News, Buy or Sell. So in the Buy or Sell, we are looking at the latest fantasy football headlines, and we ask our experts whether they're buying or selling the implications of the news headline. So we got a few on the docket tonight. The first one is Marquez Colston seems unlikely to play in Week 6. So this is according to ESPN. Saints wide receiver has been held at a team drills with a shoulder injury, though he was in attendance for the early portions of practice that was open to the media. So he seems unlikely to play on Thursday, and especially since the Saints have re-signed veteran receiver Joe Morgan, who's been bouncing on and off the roster all year. So, Blester, buy or sell? This just keeps the door open for Willie Snead. Great name, by the way. That's the best wide receiver option in New Orleans.
He actually is the best wide receiver option. He's 23rd ranked wide receiver right now, and Brandon Cooks is 30th. So yes, it does. I mean, Willie's targets have been going up every game. 3, 6, 7 did drop down to 6 game 4, and then game 5 up to 11, and he had his biggest game yet with 141 receiving yards. So he's really building confidence there with Drew Brees. Then with Marcus Colston, he hasn't really been doing a hell of a lot this year anyways, but I think there's a few less chances that, Willie could get more looks. I sure would like to see Brandon Cooks step up and surpass him and get into the top 12 here, but he's really killing some of my fantasy teams right now. So, but Willie Snead is doing well.
I love the name too. It's a great call, Willie Snead. All right, so Willie Snead, best wide receiver option in New Orleans. Let's move on to headline number 2, Chiefs pass on bigger name running backs. So we know Jamal Charles is blowing out his knees, tore his ACL, and is on the injured reserve list. But the Kansas City Chiefs have brought in some bigger name running backs for workouts on Tuesday, which is today. They brought in Ben Tate, Pierre Thomas, Isaiah Peed, Bryce Brown. I'm still surprised that Pierre Thomas hasn't signed somewhere. Anyways, this one is going to Slim, right? Yeah. So they did opt to stay in-house with Spencer Ware to replace Jamal Charles on their roster, which would seem to speak well for Ware and their other backs, which we talked about before, is Weston Davis. So Ware, who played with the Chiefs in training camp and preseason, has been on their practice squad. So that's who they brought up to fill the void for Jamal Charles. So, Slim, we did speak to this really quickly before, but buy or sell, it's West and not Davis who's the one to own in Kansas City.
I'm going to buy that. I think, Davis has, like I said, not shown tons this year. West looked good. Limited action. I think the guy's name's been all over Twitter and on every waiver wire site or article written in the last 24 hours or 36 hours. So yeah, I mean, to me, he's the guy to own right now until he proves that he's not, I guess, really. So I mean, once we get a couple games under our belt, we'll know a little bit more about this kid, but he's looked good in the limited reps he's got so far.
All right, Blister, let's go to you. The Cowboys, they're going to start Matt Castle after the bye week. So the struggling Cowboys intend to start Matt Castle at quarterback when they return from their bye week here in week 6. A league source told ESPN. Brandon Whedon, who's been on a 3-game skid, was informed by the Cowboys coaches that Castle will start in week 7 against the New York Football Giants. Castle, as we remember, was acquired from the Bills in a trade after week 2 and after Romo was injured, and was quickly promoted to the QB2 last week. So, Blister, buy or sell? This is the right move for the Cowboys, and more importantly, for Dez owners, especially if Dez is coming back week 7.
Well, I'll buy that. I mean, it's not a real, like one of those buys that you just can't wait to tell everybody about. You're excited about.
It's just Matt Castle starting.
Yeah, you don't get too excited and throw in a Castle jersey, but looking at what Brandon Whedon's done so far, he's thrown 2 touchdowns and 2 picks in 4 games, and it hasn't really been too exciting, you could say, and the guys in that offense haven't been very worthy of your fantasy starts lately, so you can't go much worse really if you start Matt Castle. So I mean, I'll buy it in the sense that why not? Have a look at it, see what happens. But either way, I'm not too excited about any of the Cowboys until Tony's back.
Exactly. Absolutely exactly. All right, and no, I'm not rushing out to buy a Matt Castle Cowboys jersey. Dave, he might be, though. We'll see if we get a tweet after that. I want to see Dave in a Matt Castle Cowboys jersey on Twitter. That's what I want to see. Anyways, moving on, Slim, this one's to you. Steelers have activated Martavis Bryant. We know that the Steelers wide receiver recently served a 4-game suspension for violating the NFL policy and program for substance use and abuse, but they have now brought Bryant up to their 53-man roster. They announced that today on Tuesday. So, Slim, buy or sell? Bryant is a flex at best with Mike Vick under center.
I'm going to sell it. He's not even a flex at the moment. We need to see him, in practice a little bit more. getting a few snaps. There was rumblings. I can't remember where I read it, but they were talking about keeping him out even once they reinstated him because I think they were worried a little bit about what these issues with him were, and they wanted to make sure that he got all the help that he needed before he ever stepped foot back on the football field. So if they're not really gonna rush him back, then I'm in no rush to start him. So I'm just gonna wait. I need to see a decent game before I'm gonna start putting him in my lineup.
All right. Moving on to you, Blister. EJ Manuel could start for Tyrod Taylor. The Bills quarterback Tyrod Taylor could be out for multiple games with an MCL sprain he sustained during Sunday's game against the Titans. CBS reported that the Bills are preparing EJ Manuel to start against Cincinnati in Week 6. Of course, T-Rex Ryan has said that Taylor's just beat up, but didn't necessarily indicate he's going to miss any time. Lester, buy or sell? The Bills are an unstartable dumpster fire for Week 6.
I'll buy that. EJ Manuel at quarterback doesn't really excite anybody else. He's a Matt Castle to me. So
he made the team and Matt Castle didn't. Let's just let that be.
Well, this is true too. There are a couple quality guys we got to talk about here, but yeah, I don't like the looks of the Bills, and it'd be pretty hard to start them with confidence anywhere. But that said, someone will start some of the clowns in some huge tournament on DraftKings and FanDuel and $1 million.
EJ Manuel's and Percy Harvin, and
and they'll go off and they'll be cheap as nuts. So yeah. No, I don't like them though. It won't be me winning $1 million off.
Maybe that's why you haven't won so far, because you're not taking guys like that.
Take any good, sensible logic, throw it out the window, and throw darts, and there's your team, and you have a shot.
This past week must have been the McCowan owner, right?
Well, I might have been. I can't remember. And Antonio Gates, I'm sure, was in there, and Doug Martin, maybe I would have started Doug Martin if I didn't have him in about 8 fantasy leagues, and he pissed me off for 5 weeks. So maybe I would have started him in $1 million tournament, but no, I wasn't going to go there. He hasn't helped me. He's helped me to losing records in most of my leagues. Why would I think he could help me in the friggin'? You know what? I think I'm getting ahead of myself with killing in the name of.
You know what? We did it last week, but we'll give it to you. I didn't put it in the script, but I'll give you a killing in the name of. You can
a lot.
Good. Well, because I put it on for last week and then you weren't there, so because I figured you had a lot. Because I remember you coming into the office. Got a lot of grievances with you people. Another Seinfeld reference. Anyways, let's move on. Another one for you. Andrew Luck practices without limitations. So according to Pro Football Talk, whatever the Colts did in practice yesterday, which was Monday, quarterback Andrew Luck was a full participant in it as far as you know. That's how they put it. And if you're looking for more clarity from Luck himself, it wasn't there either. He says it feels better every day, yada, yada, yada. He went through practice without limitations. So, Slim, I know we kind of spoke to it before earlier, buy or sell, Luck starts this week.
I buy it. Too big of a game for him to miss. He's had a lot of time off now and should be good to go.
All right. So then we're happy with everybody else, and away we go. Business as usual.
Happy with everything.
Yeah, happy as ever. Frank Gore looked good, by the way.
Oh, but just the offense, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That? I mean, I didn't know what you're talking about. Happy.
Yeah, no, sorry. Like everybody else is good. Business as usual.
Sure. Just don't get all gung-ho about Andre Johnson. I think what you saw last week was a little bit of a revelation, and I don't think you can expect that every week.
All right. That seems fair. All right, let's move on, Blister. Another one for you here. Alfred Morris loses out on snaps yet again. So this is coming from the Washington Post. It was evident the Redskins couldn't run the football, but it was even more apparent the lack of snaps Alfred Morris played down the stretch. So 2 weeks after Jay Gruden said Morris should be the lead dog in the backfield, the running back once again had the fewest snaps among the team's 3 options. So Morris only finished with 8 carries for 15 yards on 14 snaps, and his second lowest snap total since the Giants in week 3. Since the Giants in week 3. But anyways, that's like only 2 weeks ago. So anyways, there's a lot of 2nd and 8s and 2nd and 9s, Gruden says, and in that case, they're looking for someone, I guess, to catch the football. So they went on and took a look at their other 2 options and sat poor Alfie on the bench. Blister, buy or sell. It's time for Alfie to end up on your bench, end up on your waiver wire.
I'll buy that. I haven't been a big Alfie fan, especially in a PPR league. I think he really lets you down because he doesn't catch a lot of passes. And you look at guys like Theo Riddick and Danny Woodhead and guys like that who, they're not a prominent number 1 back, but just because of their PPR prowess, they outscore these guys regularly. And if Alfie's not catching passes and getting points for it, then he's got to get into the end zone, and he's not getting on the field enough to do that right now. So it's hard to let a guy of his, I guess, expectations go to the waiver wire. But if there's better options out there, I don't think, especially in a PPR, I don't think you'll regret it.
Especially PPR, especially short bench, right? Like, so hard. And who would have thought that you're like, well, Alf Morris should be a solid RB2. He should just be holding you there. That's what he does, right? That's his floor.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Anyways, all right. So that was fantasy football news, buy or sell. Time for segment number 3. This one's called Livewire. So on Livewire, the guys take a look at who you should be picking up on the waiver wire for the week, and also talking a little bit about fab budgets and budget allotments that you should be assigned to this. So now we've talked about a few of these guys, but if we need to go into a little bit more detail, Slim, why don't you name someone who you're picking up on the waiver wire this week?
Well, I think Nile Davis, if you actually want to. We talked about West. I think, 80% would be the max I would go on him. Blister said 60. The point is, go out and get him, especially if you own Jamal Charles. Now, chances are Davis could be owned in your pool, but I just think it's kind of a contrarian waiver wire pickup. Everyone's going to be going for West. Now, we haven't seen West very much. There's a chance he could bust out in 2 weeks. As defenses key on him and things like that. That opens the door for Davis. So you might be able to get Davis for 20% of your free agent budget, while some other guy spends 75% on West, and you end up with a better back long term. So I think if you're fairly set at RB and you've spent a little bit of your fab money already, you might want to shy away from West, only because you got to think that there's going to be some guys throwing out some big bids to get them, and they should. If you need running backs, then by all means that's fair. So maybe you want to steal your line, zig when everyone else is zagging, kind of thing. So just something to think about.
Well, and he was the handcuff, right, preseason?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So, that's gotta bode for something, doesn't it?
Yeah, and just for the fact that in the past, Davis has been solid. So, for whatever reason, he hasn't been great. And even just last week, I think he had, after Charles went down, West had 7 carries for 31 yards, and Davis had 2 carries for 2 yards. So everybody kind of sees that, and they think, it's our recency bias. We look at that and kind of forget the things Davis has done in the past, and we just kind of write him off a little bit. Just the flavor of the week now is this young kid we haven't seen yet, and he looked good, so it's jump all over it.
All right, Blister, who do you got next? Or sorry, I guess who do you have on your list?
I'm going to go with Jamison Crowder, wide receiver for Washington. I was lucky to pick him up a couple weeks ago now, or a week ago in some of my leagues, and the kid just keeps getting more targets, more catches, more yards every week. He went first couple of games he got 1 target each game, and then week 3 he got 6, week 4 he got 12, and last week he had 8, but he had more catches. He caught all 8 of them for 87 yards. His fantasy points from week 3 to week 4 and 5 went 12.5, 13.5 to 16.7, and he hasn't found the end zone yet. So I think he's going to get into the end zone soon. I mean, as long as Deshaun Jackson is out, he's going to get the looks. Pierre Garçon has been in and out, kind of banged up a bit. I mean, Pierre Garçon is still there. This kid's playing a nice little secondary role. Jordan Reed's banged up. Their tight ends are all basically hurt. So as long as there's featuring some injury troubles, he's going to continue to get 8 to 10, 12 targets a game, and he's putting points on the board. So take a look at him. Jamison Crowder. All 5'8".
Talking about the Washington offense tonight. Frightening statement to our podcast. Anyways, Slim, who's next?
Brandon LaFell. I think he's eligible to return from the pup in week 7. They draw the Jets defense, which is a tough matchup. But you're thinking long-term here. You're not thinking immediate impact. And we know that this Patriots offense is putting up points. LaFell was a good red zone target for them in the past. He adds something that they're going to need in the as a wide receiver. I mean, they got Gronk in the red zone, but other than that, that's about it. Their other best receivers are all little fellows. So another big body is going to be good for Tom Brady. It'll be good for LaFell. I mean, last year in 14 games, he had 950 and 7 TDs. So those are okay numbers, man. So if they come back and are putting up big points for the rest of the year, then to me, he's a pretty good option.
All right, Blister, you got someone else on the list? I'm working diligently on this.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we've had Kamar Aiken on here from wide receiver from Baltimore. But he's a big kid. He's 6'2". Steve Smith still banged up. Right now, Justin Forsett kind of hurt himself a little bit last game too. So I think if you don't have him, he's a guy that can definitely be a flex option for you, especially as you're coming into bye weeks. Had 9 targets last game against Cleveland, only made 4 grabs for 78 yards. The week before that, he was caught 5 out of 7 for 77 and a touchdown. So he's getting decent number of looks, 7, 8, 9 looks here the last couple of games. So I think you should have him in your sights as well.
All right. Slim, you got anybody else?
Last guy for me is Richard Rodgers. Another cheap guy. I never mentioned. Same with LaFell. I think if you go ahead of the curve, you should be able to get him for fairly cheap, I think. Richard Rodgers, kind of the same thing, only because he's a tight end. You should be able to get him fairly cheap for, maybe 5% of your budget, something like that. Last week he had 8 targets, and we've seen his target numbers kind of creep up as the season's gone on, which is a good thing. I mean, 8 targets in a Green Bay Packers offense, kind of like what you're talking about with New England, has potential more often than not to be decent fantasy production. So if he can keep that up, to me, he's definitely a solid tight end too, with some, depending on the matchups, and he can be a tight end 1 for you a lot of weeks. So if you're streaming, he's a good guy to have stashed in your bench. If you drafted a couple guys that are injured or just not producing, he's a good guy that you might want to grab as well.
All right. Blister, anyone else on the list?
Well, we talked enough
about
for West from KC, so I won't bring him up again.
Yep.
So I'll leave it on there.
Anyone taking a look at Carrier this week?
I took a look at him last week, and I chickened out and picked up Colby Fleener instead, and didn't work out so good. Not that Carrier did a lot, but he caught a TD. No. That was his only pass that he caught. But
while we're talking about the Washington Stellar offense, I thought maybe...
Yeah, let's throw some more. You're probably going to throw Cousins and This Is the Man for us.
No, actually, I didn't. I think it was fair. I was fair in This Is the Man. Anyways, Blister, before we get to This Is the Man, do you want to work in any killing in the name of? We did our rants last week.
Well, I was talking to some about this today at school, I think it was, and killing the name of, I guess, win today fantasy sports. are one of our sites that we work with, and they're a good bunch of guys, but they don't give a point to the kickers for extra points. And I've been eliminated in 2 survivor pools now because I need 50 points to survive. I had 49.85 in one, I think, and 49.45 in one, and no extra points would have got me in. So I don't know. I think it's not fair. The kickers have to kick them from farther out now. They're a point on the scoreboard in a game, and it just kills me that I'm out of 2 leagues that close because I didn't get those extra points. So that's one of my killing in the name of.
Yeah, I guess so. And I was just thinking, just speaking of kickers, and we've been talking about Jamal Charles. I felt bad for our buddy Ronnie McKinnon. He was at the Chiefs game and got to, he was excited to be down there, and then he watches, their superstar.
He was in that end zone where the Bears scored at the end of the game.
Oh, I don't know where he was in. I haven't talked to him.
Row one in the end zone. I just don't know which end zone.
Oh, yeah. But all he watches is his superstar player get hurt and a bunch of field goals and his team lose.
That sucks.
I felt bad for him anyways. So what else are you killing in the name of, Blister?
Well, I mean, a lot of my fantasy teams this year, my top 3 wide receivers, I went with Randall Cobb, Brandon Cooks, Alshon Jeffrey. So it's probably pretty fortunate that I'm above 500 in any pools right now, or even in the playoff hunt, because those 3 guys have let me down so much. But I still look at their names. I still think I still love those guys. I just hope that I'm not killing them at the end of the year, because this is sad to think that I'm struggling so much when I got 3 guys that should be putting up huge numbers. And I hope they heat up in time. I hope I make the playoffs, and then I hope they start taking over at that point, because then I'll be pretty happy with them. But right now, it's just not what I thought would be happening with some of these teams. And even in some of the dailies, you take Demaryius Thomas, and he throws up a 8 or 9 point effort. Randall Cobb is doing the same. I don't even look at Matthews or Cooks anymore in those things, because they don't even have come close to producing. So it's just a lot of big names. The last couple of weeks have been quite disappointing. Other than Devontae Freeman has been the biggest name and only big producer, but I guess that happens every year. You've got those stretches.
Yeah. Well, and that's
during them.
One of the only snakes I did this year is friends and family one that I started up, and I went Alshon Jeffrey, C.J. Anderson, and boy, oh boy, has that ever looked good for me.
Yeah.
So now I'm just the laughing stock of this league that I started this year. So I think I'm still mid-table. So
Eddie Lacy, there's another bust. Eddie Lacy's been crap too. Devontae Adams, I picked up. I thought it was a great drafting him at the start of the year. Like, just the list goes on and on.
On and on. Yeah, it is. All right. I'm set and ready to roll here. So that was Blister's little rant, killing in the name of. We're gonna move into segment number 4 now, and this one is called "This Is the Man." So in "This Is the Man," we pit expert versus expert in a head-to-head battle of who they would rather start, who they think's going to score more points. And we don't just go to the top of the table and look, are you going to start Matt Forte or Le'Veon Bell? It's deeper guys. It's guys that you're thinking if you're streaming, or who would you play in your flex position, those types of things. So we didn't play week 5 because Blister wasn't in the house. So let's just take a quick look back at week 4 to refresh Blister's memory. And I'm just going to say where you guys scored points, because you guys didn't split at all during week 4. So you both took Derek Carr over Tannehill and scored points. You both took Ted Ginn Jr. over Ty Montgomery and scored points. You both took Cole Beasley over Colston and you scored points. And you both took Alan Hearns over Leonard Hankerson and scored points. That was a barn burner. And you both took the Atlanta Falcons that week, who were hosting Houston, over the Redskins, who were hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. So you both scored 5 points in week 4. That total after 4 weeks was Slim 18 and Blister 12. So we move into week 6. So we always start loser first. Blister, right now, that's you.
Yes,
so
it
you
is.
get to pick first. We're going to start at the quarterback position. The first matchup here we have is Peyton Manning at Cleveland or Sam Bradford hosting the New York Football Giants.
I'm going to take Bradford versus the Giants.
Wow.
He hasn't been doing a whole lot, but they started to get better out of the last 2 games, so I'm going to go with that.
Tell me preseason you are taking. You're not going to take Peyton Manning at Cleveland. All right, Slim, what about you?
Well, 1-for-1 on splits, because I'm going to go with Manning. I think it's really tight. The difference for me is I just think if the Eagles' O-line can block like they blocked last game, they should have. They looked good, I'll be honest. After part of my killing in the name was how bad our offensive line was. But,
yeah, that's right.
They actually looked completely different. If they can keep that up, then I think they should have some success on the ground, whereas I don't anticipate the Broncos having any success on the ground. So, and the Browns' passing defense has been slightly worse than the Giants, so, and only slightly. So I'm going to give the slight lean to Peyton.
All right. So we're split there. Awesome. Let's go to running back position, and I went deep here, guys. Let's take a look at Niall. This is you, Slim. Niall Davis at Minnesota or Darren Sproles, who, again, is on Philly, so he's hosting the Football Giants.
I'm going to go with Sproles.
PPR, we always say, too. Let's clarify that.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Sproles. I think he'll be involved in the passing game, obviously. Giants have played not bad this year, but like I said, I just think he'll get involved, and I'm not sold necessarily on how much Niall's going to do here. Minnesota's been decent against the rush too, so I can't see Davis scoring any touchdowns. So I'm gonna, not that Sproles will, but I think if anyone has a higher ceiling, it's Sproles of the two.
All right, Blister, how about you, Niall Davis or Sproles?
I will take Sproles as well. I don't think they're gonna. Either of them is gonna put up huge numbers, but I think he can edge them out slightly.
All right, here's another one for you, Blister. Starting with you at the running back position, Andre Ellington at Pittsburgh or Ronnie Hillman at Cleveland.
I'm taking Ronnie Hillman here. I think Ronnie Hillman's going to break out. Cleveland has been that good at stopping the run this year, so I think Ronnie Hillman's going to get the opportunity, and he's going to have a big game.
All right, so how about you, Ellington or Hillman?
I'm going to take Hillman as well. I don't know. I'm not calling a breakout because I still think C.J. Anderson's going to be involved in their crappy timeshare, whatever you want to call it. But I just don't think Ellington's going to do much. Chris Johnson, for whatever reason, has looked good. I think they'll just continue to ride him.
Yeah, for whatever reason. Again, it's just, those are the weird storylines in fantasy, hey? It's unbelievable.
Disgusting.
So, Blister, we're moving to the wide receiver. Oh, sorry, I guess it's Slim. Wide receiver position. Andre Johnson, who is hosting the New England Patriots, or Pierre Garçon at the Jets.
I'm going to go with Garçon. It's a tough matchup, but I just think he'll get more targets than Andre Johnson. Like I said earlier, I don't anticipate what we saw from Andre Johnson being the norm, so I think there's a very good chance he could just fall back into his 2-catch, maybe 0 performance that we saw a couple weeks. Well, he did give us 2 goose eggs.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, I'm going to go with Pierre.
All right, Blister, how about you, Andre Johnson or Pierre?
I want to split on this one. I'm not feeling great about it, but I just think that the Jets are one of the best pass defenses right now in the league, giving up less than 200 a game, and I think Pierre's going to be in tough. I just hope that because New England's down, or Indy's down so bad, that they just throw it to anybody and everybody. So the problem is there's a lot of people to spread the ball around with there, and yeah, I don't have a lot of confidence in that. I'm just going to go with hoping that that's the situation.
All right, digging deep again, Blister, starting with you, Jamison Crowder, who we spoke of earlier at the Jets, or Martavis Bryant, who is hosting the Arizona Cardinals.
I'll go with Crowder just because I'm not too sure what Bryant's going to do, if he's going to play, how much he's going to play. Who knows? So I'll go with Crowder again. It's a tough matchup, but I'm hoping that he doesn't see the best defender in the Jets and he gets enough looks to make a few catches.
All right, Slim, how about you, Bryant or Crowder?
Oh, Crowder easily. I said earlier as well, I'm not going to expect anything from Bryant until we see it. Crowder's been hot. He's got 21 passes over the last 3 games or something like that. So I think he'll actually be able to get away from some of this coverage because they can line him up in the slot too. So I like that matchup.
All right, and the reason I put the pairing there was guys getting excited about Bryant coming back, tame the excitement a little bit, and don't be afraid to work that waiver wire and start the hot hand from the waiver wire over guys who are coming in cold. So that was kind of the reasoning there, and you guys reinforced it, which I was hoping you would, which is good. Tight end position, Slim, this one's coming to you. Jacob Tamme at New Orleans or Derek Carrier at the Jets?
I'm going to go with Tamme. I'd like to take Carrier, but I just, after last week, seeing that one catch or whatever, didn't give me a lot of high hopes. I thought I saw somewhere, maybe I was off, that there was a chance Jordan Reed could even play in this game, but yeah, I misread that. I don't know. I didn't rank Jordan Reed.
Maybe I saw that somewhere too.
Just because it's Tuesday, it's a little too early to project the guys that are coming back like that. So, but anyway, I'm going to go with Tamme.
All right, this
New
was
Orleans
taken.
pass defense is horrendous. In case you guys haven't noticed.
I'll quickly just jump on Roto World and see if there's any. It's hard to imagine Jordan Reed will be back in the next 2 weeks, according to ESPN via Roto World. So, change your decision?
No, I'll still go Tamme.
Okay, Blister, how about you, Tamme or Carrier?
I'm going to stick with Tamme as well.
Alrighty. Moving to Flex. Blister, this one's going to you. The Black Unicorn, Martellus Bryant, who I don't have I don't know why I didn't put the opponents in here. Who are the Bears playing?
Detroit.
Detroit, or are you taking Rashad Jennings?
I'm going to go with Martellus Bennett. He didn't have a great week last week. He still got a lot of targets, but he only caught 4 of them. And I'm not sure exactly Alshon's status, and I think as long as he's out and we see Core is banged up, they're going to have to look to Martellus quite a bit. So I'll go with Martellus to have a bounce-back week this week.
That was one of the last-minute tinkerings I did in dailies last week. I'm like, I'm putting in Bennett. He could be huge.
I know.
Alshon's not playing. But
I hate the tinkering, eh?
Oh,
Kills you.
I
Kills
know.
you.
It does. Slim, what about you? Are you taking Bennett or Jennings?
I'm going to roll Bennett too. I think, yeah. I was one of those guys, I thought he was going to have a monster game looking at the garbage that was playing wide receiver for the Bears in that one. Yeah, I still think he can do it again this week. To me, he's still a top 5 tight end just about every week, so which means he's a much better option than Jennings.
All right, and finally, it's DST Slim, starting with you. The Minnesota Vikings hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Buffalo Bills hosting the Cincinnati Bengals.
So you said Vikings and
Vikings and Bills. Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Vikes. KC struggles to score, which will hopefully keep the points down. Smith doesn't throw a lot of turnovers, though. But after watching what that Vikes D-line did to the San Diego Chargers when we were there, I think they might be able to rack up a few sacks against Alex Smith, too. So hopefully give me some fantasy points there.
All right. Buster, how about you? You taking the Bills or the Vikes?
I'm going to take the Vikes, too. I also think what the Bills don't have going for them is with E.J. Manuel at the helm and potentially a lot of drives not lasting more than 3 plays. The Bills' defense could be on the field a lot, tired out, and Cincinnati could boot stomp them.
Well, I thought I might have a few more splits here, but I guess I'll take 2. You guys are split at the quarterback position. Just to recap, Slim's taking Peyton Manning and Blister's taking Sam Bradford. At the running back position, you're both taking Sproles over Niall Davis. You're also both taking Ronnie Hillman over Andre Ellington. At the wide receiver position, you're split. Blister's taking Andre Johnson. Slim is taking Pierre Garçon. And at the second wide receiver, you're both taking Jamison Crowder over Martavis Bryant. At the tight end position, both of you are taking Jacob Tammy over Derek Carrier. Flex, you're both taking the Black Unicorn over Rashad Jennings. And at the DST, you are both taking the Minnesota Vikings over the tough Bills defense. All right, that is episode 125, guys.
Really?
125.
We're old.
Yeah, we're like grizzled veterans now. This is good stuff. Halfway through the season, the fantasy season, and a buck and a quarter
Fantasy
podcast.
regular season.
Pardon me?
Fantasy regular season.
Fantasy regular season.
That's true.
Very specific. Now I got to do some contemplating on what I do in Dynasty. Do I go? Do I not go?
Well,
decisions.
gotta keep trying, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. I thought after losing last week, good, then that'll just seal the deal, and then you put up over 200 points, and you're like, well, so you're saying there's a chance. What's all this 1 in a million talk?
Yeah.
Stupid Dynasty League. All right. Anyways, guys, that's the end of it. I'm actually at the big house tomorrow, so maybe I'll see you guys wandering around the halls. I'm meeting Mr. Gibson tomorrow.
Mr. Gibson,
Yes,
14. Good.
Yes, a new teacher in your building.
Yeah.
And so I'll see you guys in the morning. For the rest of you, I'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.